Right now, at this exact moment, someone is missing you. Not earlier, not yesterday, right now. And the strange part is, you can feel it. That sudden heaviness in your chest, that name that keeps coming back, that feeling you can't push away no matter how hard you try. That's not random. In Islam, hearts are in the control of Allah. And sometimes, when two hearts are connected, they remember each other at the exact same time. So, if someone is on your mind right now, ask yourself this honestly. Is it really you thinking about them, or are they thinking about you first? Before we go deeper, tell me in the comments, where are you watching this from, and what time is it right now in your city? Your heart feels heavy, but nothing is wrong. There are moments in your day when everything around you seems completely normal. Nothing has gone wrong, no bad news has reached you, no visible reason exists for sadness, and yet your heart feels heavy in a way you cannot explain. Not a sharp pain, not a clear sadness, but a quiet weight that sits deep inside your chest and refuses to leave no matter how much you try to distract yourself or stay busy with the world around you. You go on with your routine, you scroll through your phone, you speak to people, you try to laugh, you try to focus on your work. But deep inside there is something unsettled, something incomplete, something that makes you pause for a second longer than usual, as if your heart is searching for something it cannot reach. And the strange part is you don't even know what exactly is missing, yet you feel its absence clearly. Most people ignore this feeling. They brush it off as overthinking. They tell themselves it's just mood swings or emotional fluctuation. But in Islam, the heart is not something random or uncontrolled. The heart is under the command of Allah. He is the one who turns it. He is the one who fills it. And He is the one who allows it to feel connection or distance, closeness or emptiness, without any visible reason to the human mind. And sometimes this heaviness is not just about you. It is not just your own emotion or your own thoughts creating this state. Sometimes it is because your heart is responding to another heart, a heart that once connected with yours, a heart that shared sincerity, memories, or moments that were not meaningless in the sight of Allah. And even if distance has come between you, even if silence has replaced communication, that connection does not disappear as easily as people think. Because when two hearts are connected in a way that was real, in a way that carried sincerity and truth, they leave traces within each other, and those traces do not fade with time. They remain, they echo, they respond, and sometimes they awaken without warning, without permission, without logic, making you feel something that does not belong to just one side. So when you suddenly feel that heaviness in your heart, when you feel like something is missing but you cannot name it, when your chest feels tight without any clear reason, it could be that your heart is remembering someone at the exact same time they are remembering you. It could be that somewhere, in another place, at that very moment, another heart is feeling the same absence, the same quiet longing, the same unspoken need. And this is what makes it powerful, because it is not forced, it is not planned, it is not created by messages or conversations. It happens in silence, it happens in distance, it happens when there is no connection in the physical world, yet something remains alive in the unseen. But here is what you must understand deeply. Not every heaviness is a sign of destiny, and not every feeling is meant to be followed, because while Allah connects hearts, He also tests them. He also teaches them patience, control, and reliance on Him above all else. So this feeling is not something to blindly chase. It is something to reflect on, something to take back to Allah, something to understand with wisdom rather than emotion alone. Because the real question is not just why you feel it, but what you do with it, whether it brings you closer to Allah or pulls you into distraction, whether it makes you sincere in your dua or careless in your actions, whether it reminds you of purity or leads you toward attachment without purpose. And as you sit with that feeling, as you try to understand it, as your heart quietly carries that weight, something else begins to happen, something even harder to ignore, because the feeling does not stay silent for long. It begins to take shape. It begins to return again and again in a way that you cannot control. And that is where the next sign begins to reveal itself. They keep entering your mind, and you can't stop it. And as that heaviness settles in your heart and refuses to leave, something else quietly begins to take control, not around you but within you, because your thoughts start changing in a way you did not choose and cannot fully control. And suddenly, without warning, without preparation, without any clear trigger, that person begins to appear in your mind again, not briefly, not lightly, but with a presence that feels strong, repeated, and almost intentional. You could be busy doing something important, focused on your work, involved in a conversation, trying to stay productive, and yet in the middle of all of that, their name, their face, their memory enters your thoughts in a way that interrupts everything, and it does not come once and leave. It comes again, and then again, and then again, until you start questioning yourself, asking why this is happening now, when nothing around you reminded you of them. You try to push it away. You tell yourself that it is just overthinking, that it is just your mind wandering like it always does. But this does not feel like normal thinking, because normal thoughts pass quickly, they come and go without resistance. But this thought stays, it lingers, it repeats itself with a quiet persistence that feels deeper than your own control, and no matter how much you try to distract yourself, it finds its way back again. And this is where you need to understand something important, something many people overlook, because in Islam, the heart and the mind are not completely separate. They influence each other, they respond to each other, and when the heart carries a connection, the mind begins to reflect it, bringing that person back into your awareness again and again, even when you are trying to move forward. But sometimes it goes beyond just memory or habit, because there are people you have known, people you have spoken to, people who were once part of your life, yet you do not think about them like this. They do not enter your mind repeatedly without reason. They do not interrupt your focus or return with this kind of intensity. So when one specific person keeps appearing in your thoughts in a way that feels different, in a way that feels stronger, you have to pause and reflect on why. Because when something repeats without an external trigger, when it returns without effort, when it stays without permission, it is not behaving like a random thought, it is behaving like a connection that has not been fully removed, a connection that still exists somewhere beneath the surface, even if time, distance, or silence has tried to cover it. And in some cases, it is not just your heart reaching out, it is your heart responding. Because when two people share a connection that carried sincerity, something that was not built on illusion but on real emotion, real presence, and real moments, that connection does not disappear easily. It leaves an imprint, and that imprint can be activated without warning, without words, without contact. So when they keep entering your mind again and again, when their presence becomes difficult to ignore, when you find yourself thinking about them at times you normally would not, it could be that your heart is not acting alone. It could be that at that same moment, they are thinking about you too, and that shared remembrance is creating an echo between your hearts, that your mind is translating into repeated thoughts. And the more you try to ignore it, the stronger it feels, because suppression does not remove connection, it only hides it temporarily, and what is hidden often returns with more intensity, more clarity, and more persistence, until it becomes something you cannot simply dismiss anymore. But again, this is where balance is important, because not every repeated thought is a sign to act. Not every strong feeling is a sign to return, and Islam teaches us that while the heart may feel, the believer controls their actions. The believer reflects, the believer seeks guidance from Allah before turning emotion into decision, before turning feeling into movement. So instead of rushing toward the thought, instead of feeding it blindly, you pause, you observe, you ask yourself what this means, and more importantly, you turn to Allah. Because if this connection is something good, something pure, something meant to come back in a halal way, then Allah will make a path for it that is clear, respectful, and right. And if it is not meant for you, then no matter how strong the thought feels, Allah will protect you by keeping it distant. And as these thoughts continue to return, as they begin to shape your emotions, as your heart and mind start to align in this quiet, repeated remembrance, something even deeper begins to take place, because it does not remain just in your thoughts anymore. It starts to affect how you feel without warning, without control, and that is where the next sign becomes impossible to ignore. Your emotions change suddenly, and you don't understand why. And as those thoughts continue to return, not gently but persistently, not once but repeatedly, something begins to shift inside you in a way that is even harder to control, because now it is no longer just your mind remembering, it is your emotions responding, and the change happens so suddenly, so unexpectedly, that it catches you completely off guard. You could be perfectly fine one moment, calm, focused, emotionally stable, going through your day without any disturbance, and then without any visible reason, without any external trigger, your chest tightens slightly, your mood softens, your heart feels heavier than before, and a quiet wave of emotion begins to rise inside you that you did not invite and cannot easily explain. It is not always sadness in the obvious sense. It is deeper than that. It is a mixture of longing, softness, and an unspoken ache that settles in your heart, as if something within you is reaching for someone you cannot see, as if your heart is reacting to a presence that is not physically there but emotionally undeniable. And in that moment, even if you try to stay normal, even if you try to ignore it, you can feel that something inside you has shifted. You might pause without realizing it. Your thoughts slow down, your focus weakens, and your heart begins to whisper feelings that you did not consciously choose, feelings that seem to come from a place deeper than your own control. And the more you try to understand it logically, the more confusing it becomes, because nothing around you justifies what you are feeling within you. And this is where many people misunderstand themselves, because they assume that every emotion must have a clear cause, a visible reason, something in the outside world that explains what is happening inside them. But in Islam, the heart does not always follow visible causes, because the heart is in the hands of Allah, and He is the one who turns it, who softens it, who fills it, and who connects it in ways that are beyond human understanding. Sometimes your heart responds to something unseen, something that is not happening in front of your eyes but is still real in its effect. And when two hearts have shared something meaningful, something sincere, something that left a true mark, they do not simply disconnect like objects being separated. They remain linked in a way that is subtle, quiet, and hidden, yet powerful enough to be felt. So when your emotions suddenly change, when you feel a wave of longing without thinking about that person first, when your heart becomes soft without any clear reason, it might not be something random, it might be a response, because sometimes one heart begins to feel strongly, and the other heart, by the will of Allah, responds to that feeling in a way that is not spoken, not seen, but deeply experienced. And that is why it feels so sudden, because it is not built step by step in your awareness. It arrives all at once, as if your heart has been touched by something beyond your control, something that did not ask for permission before entering your emotions. And that is what makes it so difficult to ignore, because it feels real, it feels deep, and it feels connected to something beyond yourself. You may try to distract yourself, you may try to shift your attention, you may even try to convince yourself that it is just a passing feeling, but the intensity of it makes you pause, because it does not behave like ordinary emotion. It carries a weight, a sincerity, and a depth that feels different from anything superficial, and deep down you begin to sense that there is more to it than just your own internal state. But even here you must remain aware and grounded, because while the heart can feel deeply, the believer does not lose control. The believer does not allow emotions to lead them blindly, and Islam teaches us that feelings are not sins, but what we do with those feelings matters. How we respond to them matters, whether we take them toward halal or allow them to pull us into confusion matters. So instead of letting the emotion take over completely, you reflect on it, you observe it, you turn to Allah with it. Because if this feeling is coming from something pure, something that carries goodness, something that is meant to be part of your life in a halal way, then Allah will open a path that is clear and respectful. And if it is not meant for you, then Allah will protect you by giving you the strength to let it pass without harm. And as these emotional waves continue, as they rise without warning and settle without explanation, they begin to leave a deeper impact on your heart, because it no longer feels like a moment. It begins to feel like a pattern, and once that pattern becomes stronger, it does not stay limited to your waking state. It begins to follow you even when you are no longer conscious, even when you are no longer aware. And that is where the next sign reveals itself in a way that is even more powerful and impossible to ignore. They begin to appear in your dreams, and it feels too real to ignore. And as those emotional waves continue to rise within you, not once but repeatedly, not lightly but with a depth that leaves an imprint on your heart, something begins to shift beyond your conscious control, because it no longer remains limited to your waking thoughts or your visible emotions. It begins to follow you into a state where you have no control at all, into a place where your mind is quiet, your guard is down, and your heart is most open. And that place is your dreams. You go to sleep like any other night, not expecting anything unusual, not thinking deeply about them in that exact moment, perhaps even believing that you have managed to calm your thoughts, to settle your emotions, to regain control over what you were feeling earlier. But then as your body rests and your awareness fades, something begins to unfold in a way you did not plan and could not predict, because suddenly they appear, not as a distant memory, not as a vague image, but as a presence that feels real, close, and emotionally alive. You see them clearly, you hear them, you feel their presence as if the distance between you does not exist anymore. And the most powerful part is not just that they appear, but how the dream feels, because it is not like an ordinary dream that fades quickly or feels disconnected from reality. It feels meaningful, it feels heavy, it feels like something your heart is experiencing rather than your mind simply imagining. You wake up, and for a moment you are confused, because the feeling stays with you, the emotion lingers, the connection you felt in that dream does not disappear immediately, and you find yourself thinking about it again, trying to understand why it felt so real, why it affected you so deeply, and why it did not feel like something random or meaningless. And then it happens again, another night, another dream, another moment where they appear in a way that feels intentional, almost as if your heart is revisiting something it cannot let go of, something it is still connected to despite everything that has changed on the outside. And this is where you need to pause and reflect more deeply, because not all dreams are the same. Not all dreams carry meaning, and Islam teaches us that dreams can come from different sources, some from our own thoughts, some from shaitan, and some, in certain cases, can carry reflections that are more sincere and more connected to the state of the heart. When a person appears in your dreams repeatedly, when their presence carries emotional weight, when it feels consistent rather than random, it shows that their place in your heart is still active, still alive, still holding a connection that has not been erased by time or distance. But sometimes it goes even deeper than memory alone, because memory alone does not always create such consistent emotional experiences without recent triggers, without ongoing interaction, without something actively feeding those thoughts during your waking hours. And yet it continues, which means there is something within your heart that is still responding, still remembering, still holding on. And this is where the idea of connection becomes stronger, because when two hearts have shared sincerity, when something between them was not built on illusion but on something real, something that carried emotional truth, that connection does not simply disappear when communication stops. It becomes hidden, but it remains present, and sometimes it reveals itself in ways that the conscious mind cannot control. So when they begin to appear in your dreams again and again, when those dreams feel meaningful, when they leave behind emotions that stay with you even after you wake up, it could be that your heart is not only remembering, but also responding to something that is still active on the other side, something that is still alive in the unseen, something that does not require physical presence to exist. But even here, even in this deep and emotional state, you must remain grounded in your understanding, because not every dream is a message, not every repeated image is a sign to act. And Islam teaches us balance. It teaches us not to build decisions on dreams alone, not to let emotions lead us without guidance, not to assume that every strong feeling is meant to be followed without question. Instead, you reflect, you take the feeling, you take the experience, and you bring it back to Allah, because He is the one who knows what is hidden and what is meant. He is the one who understands the reality behind what you feel, and He is the one who can guide your heart toward what is best for you. Whether that means bringing something closer in a halal way, or removing it gently if it is not meant to remain. Because the beauty of Islam is not in denying feelings, but in guiding them, not in suppressing the heart, but in protecting it. And when you experience something this deep, something that follows you even into your dreams, it is not something to ignore blindly, but it is also not something to chase without wisdom. And as these dreams continue, as they begin to blur the line between memory and feeling, between absence and presence, something even more subtle begins to develop in your waking life. Something that no longer needs dreams to exist. Something that begins to stay with you even when you are fully awake, fully aware, fully present. And that is where the next sign becomes even more undeniable and even more powerful. You feel their presence, even when they are not there, and as those dreams begin to repeat, as they leave behind emotions that do not fade quickly, as your heart starts carrying a feeling that no longer depends on sleep or imagination, something even more subtle and even more powerful begins to take shape within you, because now the connection does not wait for dreams, it does not wait for thoughts to be triggered, it begins to exist with you in your waking life in a way that feels constant, quiet, and deeply real. You could be sitting alone, doing something ordinary, completely aware of your surroundings, fully present in the moment, and yet there is a feeling that you are not entirely alone, not in a physical sense, not in a visible way, but in an emotional presence that you cannot explain, as if someone is with you without being there, as if their existence is still part of your space, even though they are far away from you. You remember something small, something simple, and it instantly connects back to them without effort, without searching, without forcing the thought, and it feels natural, almost automatic, as if your heart has built a pathway where everything leads back to that one person, not because you are trying to hold on, but because something within you has not let go. You hear a word, you see a place, you experience a moment, and it immediately carries their presence with it, not in a painful way all the time, but in a quiet, steady way that reminds you that they are still part of your internal world, still part of your emotional memory, still part of something deeper than just past interaction. And what makes this even more powerful is that it does not feel forced. It does not feel like you are intentionally thinking about them. It feels like they are simply there, like a background presence that does not need to announce itself loudly because it already exists within you. You sit in silence, and instead of feeling completely empty, there is a sense of familiarity, a sense that your heart is not isolated, that it is still connected to something beyond your current reality. And even though you cannot see them, cannot hear them, cannot reach them, there is still something that makes their presence feel close. This is what many people experience but cannot explain, because it goes beyond logic, it goes beyond physical connection, it goes into the realm of emotional imprint, where a person becomes part of your internal state in a way that does not depend on their physical existence around you. And in Islam, when something touches your heart with sincerity, when a connection is built on something real, something meaningful, something that carried truth even if it was not perfect, it leaves behind an athar, a trace, a mark, that does not disappear easily, and that mark can remain alive within you long after distance has separated you on the outside. So when you feel their presence without seeing them, when your heart behaves as if they are still near, when your thoughts and emotions include them without effort, it is not simply imagination, it is the result of a connection that has been imprinted into your heart, a connection that still exists in a quiet, unseen way. But sometimes it is not only about what remains within you, sometimes it is also about what is happening beyond you. Because when two hearts have shared something that carried sincerity, something that was not built on deception or emptiness. They can continue to respond to each other even in silence, even without communication, even without awareness, so that quiet presence you feel, that subtle sense that they are somehow still there, could be more than just memory. It could be a shared state, a moment where both hearts are carrying each other in a way that does not need words, a moment where distance has not fully broken what was once real. And this is why it feels so calm yet so heavy at the same time, because it is not loud, it does not demand attention, but it does not leave either. It stays, it settles, it becomes part of your emotional space in a way that is difficult to remove completely. Yet even in this depth, even in this quiet connection, you must remain aware of your path, because Islam does not teach us to be controlled by feelings. It teaches us to understand them, to guide them, to place them in the right direction, because a feeling can either elevate you or distract you. It can bring you closer to Allah or pull you into attachment without purpose. So when you feel this presence, when your heart carries someone in this silent way, you do not allow it to lead you blindly. Instead, you take it as a moment of reflection, a moment to turn to Allah, to ask Him for clarity, to ask Him for what is best, to ask Him to make what is good easy and what is not meant for you distant without pain. Because if this connection is something pure, something that holds goodness for your future, something that can exist within the boundaries of what is halal, then Allah will bring it back in a way that is clear, respectful and right. And if it is not meant to stay, then Allah will gradually remove its hold on your heart without breaking you. And as this quiet presence continues, as it becomes something you feel even without trying, as it settles into your everyday moments without needing a reason, something even more pure begins to rise from within you, something that does not come from memory alone, something that does not come from emotion alone, but something that comes from sincerity itself, something that you did not plan, did not prepare, did not expect. And that is where the final sign begins to reveal itself in the most beautiful and powerful way. You make dua for them without even realizing it, and as that quiet presence settles within you, as it becomes something you carry without effort, something that exists without needing to be triggered by thoughts or dreams, something begins to rise from an even deeper place inside you, a place that is more sincere than your emotions, more honest than your thoughts, and more connected than anything you can control, because now it reaches the level of your dua. You sit to make dua like you always do, perhaps after salah, perhaps in a quiet moment of reflection, perhaps when your heart feels soft and open, and your intention is simple. You begin by asking Allah for your own needs, your own struggles, your own guidance, your own peace, and everything feels normal. Everything feels within your control. But then, without planning it, without thinking deeply about it beforehand, without telling yourself to do it, their name enters your heart, not loudly, not forcefully, but gently, naturally, as if it belongs there, as if it has always been part of your dua. And before you even realize it, you are asking Allah for them. You ask Allah to protect them. You ask Allah to guide them. You ask Allah to give them peace, happiness, and ease. And the most powerful part is that you did not prepare for this. You did not sit down intending to include them. You did not convince yourself to make this dua. It came from you naturally, sincerely, without resistance, and that is what makes it so different from everything else. Because dua is not just words. Dua is the language of the heart. It is the place where sincerity cannot be faked, where what you truly carry inside you reveals itself without filters, without control, without pretense. And when someone appears in your dua without intention, it means they are still held within your heart in a way that is real and honest. And in Islam, this is one of the purest forms of connection, because making dua for someone, especially when they are not present in your life, especially when there is distance, silence, or even separation, shows that your heart still carries care without expecting anything in return, without needing recognition, without needing acknowledgement. You are asking Allah for them, in a place where they may not even know, in a moment where there is no benefit for you in the worldly sense. And that sincerity is something that holds weight, something that is seen by Allah, something that carries meaning beyond what people can understand. And sometimes, in a way that you cannot see, in a way that you cannot prove, in a way that you may never even fully realize, that same moment is happening on the other side. Because when two hearts are still connected in sincerity, when something between them was not built on selfishness but on something real, something clean, something that carried truth, they can be guided toward each other in the most unexpected ways. So as you are making dua for them, as you are asking Allah to take care of them, to ease their life, to guide their path, it could be that at that very same moment they are doing the same for you, not because you told them to, not because you asked them to, but because their heart is responding in the same way yours is. And this is where the connection reaches its most beautiful form, because it is no longer about thoughts, no longer about emotions, no longer about dreams or presence. It is about sincerity. It is about dua. It is about placing someone in front of Allah without expecting anything in return. And that is something that carries a different kind of weight. But even here, even in this purity, you must remain grounded in your understanding, because Islam does not teach us to attach our destiny to feelings alone. It teaches us to attach our trust to Allah, to understand that while a connection may exist, it does not always mean it is meant to return in the way we imagine. So instead of turning this into expectation, instead of assuming that every mutual feeling is a sign of reunion, you take this moment and you elevate it, you turn it into something that benefits you, something that brings you closer to Allah, something that purifies your heart instead of confusing it. You ask Allah, if this person is good for you, if this connection carries khair for your dunya and your akhirah, then bring it back in a way that is halal, in a way that is respectful, in a way that protects both of you from harm, from sin, from confusion. And if it is not meant for you, then remove it from your heart gently, without breaking you, without leaving you lost, without causing damage that takes years to heal. Because the believer does not just feel, the believer understands, the believer reflects, the believer places everything in the hands of Allah, knowing that He sees what you do not see, He knows what you do not know, and He writes what is best, even when your heart is unsure. And as you finish that dua, as your heart feels lighter, as a sense of calm settles over you, as if something has been released, something has been placed in the right hands, you begin to realize that this connection, whatever it is, was never meant to control you. It was meant to guide you back to Allah, to remind you of sincerity, to remind you of reliance, to remind you that the most powerful connection is not between two people, but between you and your Creator. And that is where everything becomes clear, because whether that person returns or not, whether that connection continues or fades, the real success is that your heart turned to Allah, that your feelings led you to dua, that your connection became a means of guidance rather than distraction, and that is something that never goes to waste. Not every connection is meant to stay, but every connection is meant to teach you something. And after all of this, after the heaviness in your heart, after the thoughts that kept returning, after the emotions that shifted without warning, after the dreams that felt too real, after the quiet presence that stayed with you even in silence, and after the du'as that came from a place you could not control, there is one truth that you must understand deeply, a truth that many people avoid because it is not always easy to accept, but it is necessary if you want peace in your heart and clarity in your life. Not every connection is meant to stay, no matter how strong it feels, no matter how real it seems, no matter how deeply it touches your heart, because in Islam, feelings are not the final proof of destiny, and connection is not always the sign of permanence. And just because something exists does not mean it is meant to continue in the way you imagine. Sometimes, Allah allows you to feel something deeply, not so that you can hold on to it forever, but so that you can learn from it, grow through it, and return to Him because of it. Because the heart was not created to attach itself endlessly to creation. The heart was created to attach itself to Allah first, and everything else in your life, every person, every connection, every feeling, is either bringing you closer to Him or slowly pulling you away. So when you feel this kind of connection, when your heart responds in ways you cannot explain, When someone occupies your thoughts, your emotions, your dreams, and even your dua, you have to pause and ask yourself the most important question, not whether they miss you, not whether they are thinking about you, not whether this is mutual, but whether this is bringing you closer to Allah or not. Because that is the real measure, that is the real test. If this connection makes you more sincere in your prayers, more careful in your actions, more conscious of halal and haram, more aware of your relationship with Allah, then there is something within it that carries goodness, something that is guiding you in the right direction, something that is elevating you instead of distracting you. But if this connection makes you restless, makes you distracted, makes you lose focus on your obligations, makes you chase something without clarity, makes you fall into thoughts or actions that take you away from what is right, then no matter how beautiful it feels, no matter how strong it seems, it is not something you are meant to follow blindly. Because not every strong feeling is a blessing in its continuation, and not every emotional connection is meant to become part of your future. Sometimes it is only meant to pass through your life and leave behind a lesson that changes you. And this is where many people struggle, because they confuse intensity with destiny. They believe that if something feels strong, it must be meant to stay, but in reality, sometimes the strongest feelings are the biggest tests, because they challenge your ability to choose Allah over your desires. They test your patience, your discipline, your sincerity. And when you understand this, when you truly reflect on it, your perspective begins to change, because instead of asking why you feel this way, you begin to ask what Allah wants you to learn from it. Instead of holding on to the person, you begin to hold on to the lesson. Instead of chasing the feeling, you begin to guide it. You realize that maybe this connection was not given to you to complete you, but to reveal something within you, to show you what your heart is capable of feeling, to show you what sincerity looks like, to show you how deeply you can care, how strongly you can make dua, how much your heart can respond when something touches it. And once you understand that, once you accept that not everything is meant to stay, something inside you begins to settle, because you are no longer fighting the feeling, and you are no longer controlled by it either. You are simply understanding it, placing it where it belongs, and trusting Allah with what comes next. Because the believer does not lose when something leaves. The believer does not break when something changes. The believer knows that whatever Allah removes was never meant to stay in that form, and whatever Allah keeps will remain in a way that is better, purer, and more aligned with what is written for you. So if this person is meant to be part of your life in a halal, clear and beautiful way, Allah will bring them back without confusion, without secrecy, without pain, in a way that honors both of you and protects both of you. And if they are not meant for you, then Allah will remove them in a way that teaches you without destroying you, in a way that strengthens you instead of breaking you, in a way that replaces what you felt with something better, something more suitable for your life and your akhirah. Because what is written for you will never miss you, and what misses you was never written for you. So instead of holding on to uncertainty, instead of trying to decode every feeling, every thought, every sign, you place your trust in Allah completely. You allow your heart to feel, but you do not allow it to lead you without guidance. You take every emotion back to Him, knowing that He understands what you cannot explain. And in that surrender, in that trust, in that quiet acceptance, you find something greater than the connection itself. You find peace, you find clarity, you find a sense of stability that is not dependent on another person, but rooted in your relationship with Allah. And that is the real purpose behind everything you felt, not just to make you wonder about someone else, but to bring you back to the one who controls all hearts, the one who writes all connections, the one who knows what is best for you even when your own heart is unsure. And once you reach that understanding, everything begins to make sense, not because you have all the answers, but because you have placed your trust in the one who does. So if you've been feeling this, the heaviness you couldn't explain, the thoughts that kept returning, the emotions that came out of nowhere, the dreams that felt too real, the presence you felt even in silence, and the dua that came from your heart without planning it, then don't ignore it completely, But don't lose yourself in it either, because not every feeling is a sign to chase, but every feeling is a sign to reflect. Take it back to Allah. If this person is good for you, if this connection carries higher for your dunya and your akhirah, then ask Allah to bring it back in a way that is halal, clear, and full of barakah, without confusion, without pain, without regret. And if this connection is not meant for you, then ask Allah to remove it gently from your heart, not by breaking you, but by healing you, because the most beautiful love is not the one that makes your heart restless. It's the one that brings your heart closer to Allah. And maybe, just maybe, the reason you felt all of this was not just to remind you of them, but to remind you of Him. So don't hold on to the person, hold on to the lesson. Don't chase the feeling, chase what brings you closer to Allah. And trust this completely. What is written for you will reach you, even if the whole world tries to stop it. And what is not written for you will never stay, no matter how much you try to hold it. So place your heart where it truly belongs, in the hands of Allah. If this touched your heart, comment Ameen.